So the new song, I love it. A different kind of a year. Again, the smiles, the crying, happy tears, hugging and chugging, the partying. You know, it's like that party country that I feel like is so. It's really brought new life to country and made me a fan because I grew up in the 80s and 90s. I felt like country was always so sappy and depressing then, but now it's like more this like happy, fun country party rock that I love.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I can channel those sad country stuff too, and those stories because I mean, that's what life's all about is up and downs. But this one's definitely more of a feel good, upbeat song.
Absolutely. Well, it's interesting too because like you have the you're kind of like a renaissance man. Like you've got the music stuff, and you not only sing and write songs, but you also play the drums. You've acted a little in the Retaliators. You played
Yeah,
ice hockey. You fly or pilot. Like, how is it? I mean, it seems so rare these days for people to be able to do so many different things. Like, why do you think you're able to do all those different things and other people struggle with just being good at one thing?
I mean, I think I definitely have my parents to thank for that on the music side and even the hockey side. I mean, just being so supportive, getting up early at 6 in the morning and driving us to practice and, making that sacrifice to, it's not cheap either. So, and, I didn't come from money. So we had to work hard for everything that we had. And, just blessed to have a good, loving family to support that, whether that was hockey, music. I mean, my brother is a 14-year pro hockey player drafted to the NHL and now coaching in the Western Hockey League for the Seattle Thunderbirds. I was doing the drumming thing and then into hockey and then into flying, got my pilot's license. And then, obviously throughout since whatever it was, 2010 or 11, when I started this music career, my dad was actually one of my first drummers. So that was pretty cool until he started getting too tired going into work. So mom put an end to that. Told me I got to find a drummer. Uh, but I think just having the support from friends and family is probably the main thing. And getting that love and support from them kind of keeps you going and keeps you humble too.
But you don't get you see because I feel like a lot of it is people kids will get into like video games or people get into Netflix. It's so easy to get
Yeah.
addicted to that stuff. There's so much good streaming stuff. When I was a kid, there was like 12 channels, and now there's like so much streaming. I mean, you could literally just watch movies and TV all day. And so
Yeah.
many people, I think, just get caught up in that. How did you not get caught up in just being entertained all the time? You actually like want to go out and do things.
I mean, as a kid or even now, in my early 30s, it's like I've always been that way. I want to get up and do something. I want to mingle with people. I want to make people laugh and feel good and smile and that's what I hope my music does too. But um, it's always just been that way for me. I'm a bit of a social butterfly and like to get out there and be with people and most of all, with my best friends or anyone on this bus will know that I like to have a good laugh too. I think it's really important for the mind, soul, and the heart. So I like to try to give that to people as well, when I ever get out and stuff. And like even when I was younger, if I was playing video games, it was like Grand Theft Auto, so I can drive cars and steal planes. Even as a hockey player, I played very little NHL. My brother loved it, and his friends would come over. But then once they were done and went outside or something, well, then I'd fire up the Ace Combat and fly jets and stuff and do missions like that. Because as a kid and even into my early 20s, that's what I wanted to do was become a fighter pilot. And so that was kind of a huge goal of mine and still a huge passion of mine as a pilot, as a private pilot. So I always like to stay busy and keep the hands and feet and mind going.
That's awesome. So with the pilot stuff, how does that work? Because, maybe I should get a pilot's license because I absolutely hate flying commercial and I don't think I can afford a private jet. But if you get a private license for flying, like, do you have to, I'm assuming you either have to own a plane or what you have to borrow somebody's or rent one, or how does that work? Because those
Yeah,
are still expensive, right?
it depends what you're flying. It depends what you get into. And even as a private pilot, there's certain um, boxes you got to check off. I mean, to kind of get in depth of certain things. I mean, there's, you get your private pilot license, which is, daytime flying, VFR, visual flight rules. Then you can get into ILS, which is sorry, not ILS, IFR. I'm right. And cool, really cool thing is our buses here, the venue's there, and the Victoria Airport is literally right here, right on the threshold. So we're seeing planes coming
Oh,
in, which is a bonus for me. But then there's IFR, which is more like in weather like this, where the ceiling's quite low. It's an instrument rating. Then you get multi-engine, night rating, all that kind of stuff in order for you to fly in certain conditions, and then there's your commercial license. So I'm restricted to certain things unless I go again check those boxes off. But I suggest anyone who has any kind of passion for flight or planes or has ever even thought or dreamt of flying, it's never too late, and I think it's always worth it to at least take a look into it. If you get into it and realize, okay, shit, this is maybe not my thing. It's cool, but this is pretty intense. Then hey, at least you can say you tried. But if you end up getting through it and loving it and being really even more passionate about it as you learn, then hey, man, sky's the limit.
Yeah. Well, did you ever think of doing the Canadian Air Force? Is that a thing? They must have an Air Force, right?
Of course they do. Yeah. And I when I first started this music career, that was I kind of started playing when there's the bass player. I started hey man, Shane. I actually, so when I started playing music, that's how it all started for me. I attended the Royal Military College of Canada. I was actually scouted by Ohio State University to go Division 1 when I was 18, and I was fresh out of high school, and I didn't want to go back to school. I had
Wait, Ohio State football?
hockey.
Oh, hockey. Okay.
Hockey,
Wow.
yeah. And my only question was, do I have to write that SAT thing? They said, well, yeah, of course you can, but we'll get you in there. You can write it as many times as you want. Like, nah, I don't really want to write a test at this point. So I just continued playing hockey. And in my senior years, 20 years old, there was the Royal Military College of Canada that scouted me to come play for them. And I thought, well, I don't really have anywhere else to go. I had some opportunities perhaps to play in Europe as well. And I just I wasn't feeling that. So I said, what the hell, as a kid, I've always dreamt of being a fighter pilot. So I enrolled as a pilot at the Royal Military College of Canada, and I was on the hockey team, the Paladins in Kingston, Ontario. I was there for several months and doing some upgrading stuff, and it just kind of fell through. It's because it wasn't the original plan. And at that time, I started picking up a guitar and singing. And my brother's girlfriend at the time was like, well, if you don't know what you want to do, why don't you come back home and play at this bar that I'm at, give you a couple $100 every Wednesday. And so that's where it all started, man. And one thing led to another. I played there Wednesday night, then I'd go to another bar on Thursday, started playing Friday, Saturday at this other pub. And then I put a band together. As I was saying, my dad was one of my first drummers because I couldn't find one. And the rest is history, man. 13 years later, here I am crossing Canada for the 7th time on this big old rig. And look at that. We got a plane taking off right over us right now.
That's awesome. Wait, so when you first started playing the music, I'm assuming, was it just covers, or did you splash in the originals, or when did you get to start writing your own songs?
You know what? I've always written my own stuff. Like I've always been into that. And even before I was ever considered myself a songwriter, I was writing and not really even knowing. But I always, even at the early days with nothing at radio or, there was MySpace and stuff then, 12 years ago or whatever it was. And I didn't really have the capability to put these songs out on like whatever it was, LimeWire or whatever, right? It wasn't as accessible then, but I always played originals mixed in with covers, and even covers I would kind of do my own way. I'd do it in a different key or different progressions and just kind of do it my own way. And I think it might be because of my drumming background. I hear stuff a little heavier, or, being a Rush fan, like, hey, why don't we do this? It's kind of crazy. But I always mix it up, originals and covers, of course.
So you play covers now? You cover any songs live?
Very, very little. I think everybody does. They always throw something. It's kind of like where you come from, your roots, and depending on the crowd, I'll play some Ozzy Osbourne, or I'll do some. It's funny because I always say this too. If I'm headlining, then I'll play both, and that's in country music. We love our mamas, and rock. They do as well. So the cool thing is I might play Mama Tried by Merle Haggard. And then later on in the set, I'll also cover Mama I'm Coming Home by Ozzy Osbourne. So it kind of goes, hand in hand.
Yeah, that's awesome. And didn't you, don't you work with one of the guys that, am I mixing you up? Didn't you work with one of the guys that worked on the Ozzy album?
Kevin Churko.
Kevin Churko.
Yeah. So he wrote and produced the Black Rain album, and I believe it's called I Don't Want to Stop. And Scream, that album. So Scream and the one I said before that, Black Rain. Yeah, he wrote and produced both those albums with Ozzy. So we're very much, that's the cool thing about Kevin's also a drummer and a great drummer as well. And that's how we kind of connected, was being loving country music, songwriting and soul of country music, but the stomp and the energy of rock and roll. So he got me right away, and that's how we started working together. He came to one of my shows opening up for Toby Keith in his hometown, Moose Jaw, and the rest is history. We took a shot of Jack after the show, shook his hand, met him for the first time, and said, "When can you come to Las Vegas to start writing and recording?" And Outlaws and Outsiders was the first song we wrote back in September. I think it was late September 2015, and the rest is history.
That's awesome. So what does he bring in terms of a producer and a songwriter? Because the songs are very well produced and very well written. So how much of that is like, are you writing like most of the song and he's tweaking things, or is it like he brings in like a song idea and you guys work together on it?
It's very much a little bit of everything. I mean,
Okay.
I will like, for example, a song called My Whiskey Your Wine. We we always just kind of hang by the pool, sip on some wine, and shoot the shit after 10, 12 hours in the studio at his place every day when I'd go down there. And I just had this kind of Merle Haggard in mind, and I was writing this thing, and I was going through some stuff as well, of course, some heartbreak, and I literally just wrote the song "My Whiskey Your Wine" in about 20 minutes and sent it to him while he was outside waiting for me with my glass of wine. And he said, "Man, we'll cut that tomorrow. That's great." And there's stuff like that. There's songs that I've brought in that I thought were done, but obviously him being the great producer he is, it's like, well, we could do this or do that. Why don't we throw a bridge in here? And then, we kind of collab together and do that. And he's just so great. I think I just building a song and making it that stomping, amped up, country that you hear and on an album like Who I Am. And I'm a huge Merle Haggard fan. He's a huge Steve Earle fan. So there's that kind of outlaw badassery going on. And then, of course, my favorite record, even in high school, was Black Rain, the Ozzy Osbourne record that I didn't even know at the time who Kevin Churko was, but it was him who ultimately wrote and produced one of my favorite records of all time. So it was kind of ironic how full circle happened. Both drummers, both love the Hag and Steve Earle, obviously big fans of Ozzy, and then we make this crazy record together.
That is crazy, like synchronicity that like those are both things that you wouldn't think the guy that made Ozzy liked Merle Haggard and was a
Well, and
drummer.
on top of that, him working with Mutt Lang on acts like Shania Twain. I mean, the ironic thing is Shania and I played a lot of the same venues Shania played in Northern Ontario because where I'm from, North Bay, Ontario, is only 3 hours. Timmins, where she's from, is only 4 hours north of me. And I played a lot of hockey up there as a kid. I got family up there. So she's passed through my hometown in North Bay. We played the Deerhurst Resort, in the Muskoka areas and Southern Ontario. So it's kind of ironic. And he also worked on, an album like Up by Shania with Mutt Lang on that too. So it's kind of, again, full circle,
I didn't know that he worked with Mutt. He must have learned a lot from him. Was he just like an engineer or something, or what was his
I
role
think
on
he
there?
engineered those records.
Okay.
Yeah, with
Wow.
Mutt and ultimately getting some pretty big gigs after that, due to his great work with bands like Ozzy and Five Finger Death Punch, and so it's really it's one thing to be able to work with a guy like that, but it's an even more incredible feeling to consider him family. And him and his entire family have been such great friends and people to me, and since we met, and I'm very fortunate to have the Churko crew in my corner.
That's amazing. And so did he help you get the guests on that song Outlaws and Outsiders? Because it's
Yeah.
got Mick Mars and Travis Tritt and Ivan Moody from Five Finger Death Punch. And
Yeah, man. I mean, that was a huge part of it. And Five Finger and Motley Crue, I'm on the same label as them, as
sure.
the only, or as they say, the flagship country artist on that record label. There's bands like Hell Yeah, which had Vinnie Paul, and Motley Crue, Five Finger Death Punch, and he sent Ivan the song, and Ivan absolutely loved it. I'll never forget Ivan FaceTiming me, because they were in Vegas, so I was kind of getting ready to go to bed. It was around midnight or something, and I get this FaceTime by Kevin Churko. I'm like, he never calls me at this time. It's probably pretty urgent, so I pick it up. But it wasn't Kevin; it was Ivan. And he's like, "What's up, Cory? Just recorded your song, man, and love it." And it's like, holy shit, didn't even know. And So there was that, and then my label, Alan Kovac, was friends with Mick at the time as well too, and Mick loved it, and my manager at the time, I believe, reached out to Travis Tritt, and we all know him. I mean, he's country to the bone, but he also likes to rock a little bit too. So it made total sense, melodically, musically, and lyrically for all of them, and I'm forever grateful for that one because that's obviously a game changer for me.
Yeah. Did they, you didn't actually work in the studio with them, right? Did they, I'm assuming they just sent you the tracks.
I worked with Travis on this one, the Blackbird Studio in Nashville. I joined Travis, and actually getting to see a legend like that sing on a song that I wrote, and it being or getting so big, um, after these years, and right off the hop when it was released, it was quite a moment, and I'll never forget. He told me we were in the studio and we were just kind of shooting the shit, and he says, "You know what? I'm going to tell you something right now." He says, this is kind of what I did when I was your age. And I'll never forget, Waylon Jennings took me aside just like this and said, "Boy, like, I'm going to pass you the torch to represent country music." And he gave me that torch, to keep going and keep kind of country strong, if you will. And then he just looked up at me and says, "Now I'm passing you the torch. It's your turn." And coming from Travis Tritt, from Waylon to Travis, passed on to me, that's a moment I'll never forget. And I kind of feel like I got a job to do, and I'm definitely going to do it.
Damn, that is freaking amazing. Now, is that like your pinch me moment? Is that like the hurdle that you felt like you crossed where you felt like, okay, I made it. This is for real. Or was there another moment even before that, like when you got signed to Better Noise Music or when you had another big show that you did or?
I think there's just, I mean, this industry and this life are full of those moments for me. Because once you achieve something, or once something really cool like that happens, it's like, okay, well, what's next? It's, you live in that moment, you take it in, and you hold on to it. But ultimately, you still got to grow. There's still hurdles to jump over, and I know I still got many to jump over in this industry. But it's moments like that remind you that you're onto something, or you got something special going on. And if these guys believe in you and want to be part of it, um and want to continue pushing you to keep doing what you're doing, then those are, especially on those hard days or those harder days, you kind of got to look back at those and say, "Hey man, kick yourself in the ass a little bit, and keep doing what you're doing."
Yeah. I mean, another one of those moments was, I mean, well, I guess like, cause you had Tommy Lee in your music video and you're also in that Retaliators movie. Was all that kind of at the same time or the same days?
Um, those are at separate times, like
Oh,
when I got the offer to be in the movie as Jimmy the bartender, I thought, how ironic. But um, you know, as it was kind of being filmed and stuff, then I get this email that, "Hey, by the way, Tommy Lee's going to be the DJ at the strip club, and we're going to put that in your music video." I thought, to have Tommy Lee in one of my music videos. Now I have yet to meet Tommy. As you know, there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle that when you're making a movie or something like that, even recording
yeah.
is, it's kind of like ship it out, they'll do it, and you get it back, and it's a thing. But um it's pretty surreal to kind of look back on some of these things and have someone like Jason Hook ripping guitar, and Tyler Conley of Theory of a Dead Man, featured vocalist as well. And again, another two great dudes, also Canadian, that I call, that are dear friends of mine. So it's a crazy, it's a wild ride. That's what it is.
Yeah. Well, so with Tommy Lee, like, and I know you mentioned you're a big Rush fan too. So do you like the more extravagant kinds of drumming? Because like I just had David Lee Roth's drummer on, and he was like, "Oh, I go, do you do drum solos for like when David Lee Roth, so he could like step off?" And they're like, he goes, "No, I don't like drum solos." I was like, "Really?" And so, like, or do you like drum solos? Do you like? Because I love that kind of like Tommy Lee in the roller coaster going upside down. I think that shit's awesome.
Well, if I'm headlining or have 75, at least 75 minutes in my set, it's very common that I get behind the kit mid show and do my own drum solo, as I call, I got to do it. There's another plane coming in, really awesome. It's a 172, so that's the exact same kind of plane that I fly.
Wow.
Uh, but my dad actually named my drum solo, since I was a little boy, the kneel to kneel. It's a Neil. It's a bow down, a tribute to Neil Peart, and I do some of the melodic stuff that you'll hear in his drum solos. I will also input into mine to kind of as a tribute and a bow to the professor.
Wow. So you do like that stuff.
Love it. You gotta love that stuff. And that's one thing you don't really see too often anymore, and especially in a country show is a full on anywhere from 3 to 6 minute drum solo. And depending on my time, I will do that. There are some times even going back to high school where there was like a talent show or something, and I was just going off and brought my kit to school. Dad helped me bring my drum kit to school, and I'm so excited for this thing. And you're in front of like 400 or 500 students, and I'm doing this drum solo, and everyone's going nuts. But I guess I only had 4 minutes, but of course I'm hitting about a 6 minute mark, and I'm just getting to that cool part. So I just kept going, and my principal shut the power off and the lights, and I just kept going off, and everyone stood up and started cheering and going. And I'm like, that's the joys of having an acoustic drum set as opposed to electronic drum set. They couldn't keep me off. So I had to, I loosened it up a little bit or made it a bit shorter, but still got that kneel to kneel in there. And even now I have like friends from high school who weren't, I wasn't, hanging out with them, but that were there that day. Where I get a random message, "Hey man, so cool to see your career take off. Do you remember that time when you did that drum solo and and the principal turned the power off on you?" So it's cool. It's cool to kind of have that like 15, 20-year look back and be like, holy shit, But
That's amazing.
yeah, a lot of fun.
That's really cool. Have you ever seen Zoltan Chaney? He's like a very visual drummer. I don't know if he's technically any good, but to me, he's so fun to watch. He stands up and jumps and lands. I mean, he's like Animal from the Muppets. Like it's just
Right.
crazy.
Yeah, I don't think I'm as agile as that. But I might twirl my sticks or throw my sticks or stand up and smash cymbals, but that's about as far as I go as far as acrobats or something while performing.
Yeah, I mean, so it's cool you're a fan of all these different genres of music. But aren't you also a very big Bryan Adams fan? Did you? And I heard you talking about maybe trying to meet him. Did you ever get to meet him?
I have not yet Bryan Adams. I've met Merle Haggard, I've met Eric Church. I'm missing Ozzy and Bryan Adams. Those are the two singer-songwriters that I've always been a fan since I was a kid, but I got to see him live for the first time about a week, not even about a week, yeah, I guess, before going on that tour last year across the states with Five Finger Death Punch and Brantley Gilbert. And it was the first time I saw him, and it blew me away and inspired me so much to be a better songwriter, a better singer. And I'm not just saying that, really, to have these songs that are 35, 40 years old still be completely relevant today. And the band, there's no pyro, there's not really crazy lights or anything. There's not even a riser for the drummer. It's right off the floor, straight up rock and roll, no tracks. I didn't even see him take a drink of water, and he sings all the regular keys. It was a fucking 2-hour show, and it blew me away. And one of the first albums, actually the first album I ever bought myself, was 18 Till I Die. I bought it from my mom for Easter because she loved Bryan Adams and that record. She wasn't the only one. And there's, that song exactly, 18 Till I Die. One day I'll be 18 going on to 65. And at that time, my dad was 65, and I'm sitting beside him watching Bryan Adams. And it was just such a moment that certainly won't ever forget. And since then, I've just been, man, even on this tour, we do an acoustic part, and I'm doing Bryan Adams covers. So I would really love to meet him. And actually, right after this tour, one of my gifts for Christmas this year is I'm going to Pittsburgh to see Bryan Adams. It just so happened to be that the New York Rangers are in town the following night. So Bryan Adams Friday night, same arena. We're going to walk back from the hotel and watch Pittsburgh Penguins against the New York Rangers on Saturday. So yeah, I'm a huge Bryan Adams fan, man. That's definitely one of my biggest influences as a singer-songwriter.
So it sounds like more than just meet him. You'd want to collaborate with him, right? You want to write a song with him or something.
I would love to collaborate with him. I think it'd be super cool. I know he does a lot of collaborations with females, and I thought to myself, well, I could put my hair down and make sure to be clean shaven, and then we could still do that song.
Yeah. No, I mean, why? Yeah, he should give you a chance. You're both Canadian.
Both Canadian. And actually, the cool thing is, too, he's from Kingston, Ontario. And that's actually where my music career started as a singer-songwriter. going to the Royal Military College of Canada, RMC in Kingston, is where it all started for me, and that's the home of Bryan Adams.
Wow. Is it rare to have a country musician from Canada? I'm trying to think of who are the other ones. Is there any? There's got to be more though, right?
There's Matt Lang in the window. Flip.
Hi, Matt.
Sorry, say that again.
There's not a lot of country musicians from Canada, right?
Well, there are many. There's great talent here in this country, both in the country and rock world. A lot of great. I mean, Shania Twain is just one of them. You know, it's one of many. But there's lots of great pickers and players and singers here in Canada, in the country, again, in the country genre and rock.
Do you still live in Canada, or have you relocated?
I do. I live in Canada still. I'm only about 25 minutes from my hometown of North Bay. I live in a small town called Sturgeon Falls with my girlfriend and my dog Teslin. And I was going to move to Nashville, then COVID hit and all that shit. But there could be, you know, we've been talking about you know, especially this year with new music, a new album, and all that kind of stuff. Moving down south, even just getting an apartment or something there, so I can be there 2 weeks at a time. Or if I got to be there for a month, then you know we can make that happen.
I didn't. Okay, so for some reason I thought you had relocated. So how did you get signed to Better Noise Music? Like, how did they find you?
Through Kevin Churko, because Kevin producing Five Finger
Oh.
and a number of their acts, and Kane as well, his son Kane Churko, producing bands like Papa Roach and stuff. You know, we made a little an EP package that we sent to them, and they loved it right away, and then wanted to you know, start a country venture. So here I am.
So part of it is not just like it's kind of is who you know, like not just where you are, but if you can make that connection, even not having to relocate, then it works out.
Yeah, man. And obviously, like, Nashville is like you got to live there type town, but you know, it's a cliquey town too, just like, you know, here in Canada. You kind of got to be there, unless, you know, you could really break that mold and kind of just do your thing and not really kind of care or look too much into the industry side of things, you know. But for me, it's about trying to make the best music as possible that's you know, that people can relate to, of all ages and all sexes and everything. It's to me, it's just about the music, the art, the craft, and longevity, you know.
Yeah. Well, I think you're doing it. I love the new song. I love the older stuff. I'm now a fan. So if you come to Phoenix, I'm in Arizona. I will come and see you. Hopefully, maybe not the summer, because that's really hot here, but any other time of the year, I would recommend.
You're in Phoenix?
Yeah, near Phoenix, Scottsdale.
I have my cousins live in is it Tempe or
Tempe?
Tempe. They're
Yeah. That's the locals call it Tempe. If you're not, you might say Tempe. Or
my bad. If anyone out there is listening, I know how to say it. I just said it wrong. It's still early here. All right. But we'll definitely have you out to a show, Chuck. It's a pleasure talking to you, and I really appreciate you taking the time, man. And if you happen to see an Arizona or Phoenix state, let me know, and we'll get you out. A couple shots of Jack, and we'll be rocking and rolling.
All right, sounds good, Cory. I'll see you later.
Thank you, brother. Take care,
All
man.
Right, you too. Bye-bye. Thank you for taking the time to listen to the full podcast episode. Please help support our guests by following them on social media and purchasing their products, whether it be a book, album, film, or other thing. And if you have a few extra dollars, please consider donating it to their favorite charity. If you want to support the show, you can like, share, and comment on this episode on social media and YouTube. And if you want to go the extra mile, you can give us a rating and review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Google Podcasts. Finally, make sure you're subscribed to the show on YouTube for the video versions and other exclusive content. We appreciate your support. Have a great rest of your day, and shoot for the moon.